If you're looking to start a recovery from gambling or indeed from anything, or you want to set yourself on a path of personal improvement in whatever capacity that is, then you're likely to end up in a similar mindset to the way I felt very recently. And it can be one of the biggest barriers to self-improvement. In fact, it's the thing that plagues me time after time in many areas of my life, where I find myself back at square one time after time. So if you're thinking of quitting gambling, if you're thinking of quitting any form of negative behaviour or addiction, or you want to get yourself into a far more positive routine than maybe you're currently living, then hopefully my bad experiences can help benefit you and can stop you from making the same mistakes that I have historically made time after time after time. Alright, firstly, I just want to say hi, hope you're keeping safe, hope you're keeping sane. Yes, I know it's been a while, but let's not dwell on that. Thank you to everyone who stuck with the channel despite my absence. Thank you to everyone who's liked, subscribed, and people who are new over here. Thank you very much for coming. Trust me, my videos are normally far more frequent than this. So, what am I blethering on about today? Well, yesterday I went to the gym. Okay, now this isn't some sort of subtle flex, because as you can see from the number of chins I have, going to the gym is not necessarily something that I have been particularly good at doing on a regular basis. However, there was a time last year where I went almost religiously, day after day after day after day, for several months, and I saw some massive improvements, both in my weight loss, in my overall health, and all the other benefits you get from going to the gym, which I'm not going to dwell on here because there are people who talk about that stuff with far more proficiency than I ever could. And then, for whatever reason, I just stopped going. I just stopped partaking in this sort of positive routine, and I slipped back into a more negative routine. I stopped watching what I was eating so much. Obviously I stopped going to the gym regularly. In fact, in the end I stopped going to the gym at all. I also then started going to the pub more often, drinking more, eating less healthily, etc, 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 and I slipped back into negative behaviours. I came to a realisation not that long ago that I needed to do something about my health. Now, it might be that you've come to the realisation that you need to do something about your gambling. It might be that you've come to the realisation you need to do something about your drinking. Or, like myself, you need to do something about your weight or your health or whatever it happens to be, alright? Basically, less bad, more good. So you make this decision and you go, right, I'm going to get back into shape. I'm going to get back on the treadmill, both metaphorically and indeed physically. But there's this thing that holds you back, and it's the thing that I referred to at the beginning of this video, which I think was the cause of so many failures when it came to getting into recovery from gambling, or indeed so many failures I've had at various points in my life with various aspects of my life and my behaviours and my very being, where I've subconsciously or consciously decided I'm going to put my mind to something and I'm going to achieve it and I'm going to work towards it and I'm going to change my life and things are going to be great. And then you have this nagging thing in your head that you won't actually, I've set myself so far back with the negative behaviours. You almost get to a what's the point kind of scenario. And I experienced this yesterday when I went back to the gym. It's been several months since I last went, or certainly several months since I last went with any frequency. And I couldn't shake this thing in the back of my head that said, well, you were getting in good shape before when you were going. You were losing weight, you were being healthier, you were happier, all this positive stuff. If only you'd continued with that, if only you'd stuck with it, how much better would your life be now? How much better would your health be? What better position would you be in had you only persevered with this the very first time you thought about it? And it's the same thing that plagued me when it came to escaping gambling addiction. You know you need to quit. You decide you're going to quit and that the day is going to be day one. Mainly it's because possibly you're in a very bad financial situation. And you know that quitting gambling is going to be the only way in the future that situation is going to improve. But there's this voice, and it was always this voice in the back of my head, which said, well, you know what? If you'd stuck to quitting, if you'd stuck to your recovery the very first time you attempted it and failed, one of many failures, if only you'd stuck to it the very first time you did that, you would be in a far better situation already. you'd have less debt, you'd have more money, you'd have a nicer car, bigger house, all the rest of it. And probably a few less grey hairs and a nicer hairline, I can imagine. But anyway, that's by the by. And that thought, whilst the positive thing to do would be to project that thought into the future. So say your first attempt at quitting gambling was 5 years ago and you've had multiple failures, as I did, and you think, well, actually, if I had quit 5 years ago, I'd be in such a better position. What you should do is take that and project it 5 years into the future and think, well, actually, write that off. 5 years in the future, think how much better my life would be. All right, it's the ancient Chinese proverb, which I'm going to butcher, as I always butcher proverbs, as you'll know if you've been with me for a while, that the best time to plant a tree was 100 years ago, and the second best time is now. And that's always going to be the case when it comes to making changes in your lifestyle and in your habits, be that giving up a bad habit or taking on a new, more positive habit. All right, but because we're human and because we're flawed, our brain tends to manifest it in a far more negative fashion. And that would, with gambling, certainly go something along the lines of this. I first considered quitting gambling 5 years ago. I failed and failed and failed. And had I, done that, I'd be in such a better position. My life would be so much better. I'd be happier, healthier, wealthier, blah, blah, blah. And then you get down, you get depressed. You think, oh, I don't know, what's the point? And then you just fall back into old routines because it feels almost like that opportunity you had to be a better version of yourself today, you let go all that time ago. And there's nothing you can do about it now because what's gone is gone. And as much as I hate the expression and it pains me, it is what it is. But that is something we have to accept. We are in the position we are in today. We cannot change that today. Okay, and looking back is only going to make it feel helpless. It's going to make it feel hopeless. And not only that, it's going to reaffirm the fact that we have failed in the past. And everyone who's decided to join a gym, give something up, quit drinking, go on a diet, whatever, everyone has experienced a failure. So what we need to do realistically is try and project that into the future. But like I say, that's much, much easier said than done. There's good news. There is good news because the first time I started going to the gym again, and I will refer back to the gym because that's what triggered me to make this video, is that I slowly found I was getting improvements. I was noticing improvements, be that lost weight, muscle bit growth, all the rest, all the stuff you get from the gym basically. And yes, I went yesterday and I was doing some bicep curls because, everyone loves a cliche, and I was using significantly lower weights than the very last time I was in the gym. Why? Because I've not looked after my body in the last few months and I've got weaker. But I know that in a few weeks' time, if I keep this up, yes, there'll be gains I've had before. Yes, there'll be improvements I have seen before in my life. All right, but they will still be improvements and they will still be things I can be proud of and I can enjoy. The same comes from gambling. When I was much younger, before gambling really took hold, I had a good job. I had quite an expensive car, blah, 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 all that rubbish, right? A Rolex and stuff, okay? I got down to bare bones. I was driving around in crappy old cars, sometimes no car at all, whatever. If you suffer from a gambling addiction, you know how this story goes, okay? Now, I recently got a new car, all right? Now, it's not a new car, it's new to me. It's not anything overly fancy, but it's newer and it's, not the old bangers that I'm used to driving about in. The positive that comes out of that is that's a mental step up. Yes, had I given up gambling 10 years ago and stuck with it, or 15 years ago and stuck with it, or whatever, yeah, I'd probably have a new Range Rover sat outside, or whatever. All right, but you have to let that go. And you then have to enjoy every step, every bit of progress, every bit of self-improvement along the journey that you're on. And the good news is that actually, if you're flat broke, in the same way that if you weigh 30 stone, a lot of these steps are going to be a lot easier to achieve. If you weigh 30, 40 stone, and you start doing a bit of exercise, you will find that you lose weight and you progress and you've got milestones and you've got improvements that are noticeable very, very quickly. In the same way that if you're completely flat broke and you can't afford a pair of roller skates or a bike, let alone a car, all right, you will notice that your financial situation improves, notably, reasonably quickly. If you get from having no car or mode of transport to buying a bike, right, that's a significant step up, and that's probably quite a good benefit to your life. If you then go from having a bike to a cheap 500 quid runabout, that's another great step up. You've got a car, you've got a vehicle. The higher you go up this, of course, the less the returns. Once you've got yourself a Ferrari, what is there to look for? A better Ferrari or a Lamborghini or whatever. That's not to say I don't want a Ferrari, you know what I mean? But we all have aspirations. But the point is that if you are at a bottom point, if you are flat broke, what you perceive to be rock bottom, all right, not only is the only way up, as the great philosopher Yaz once said, but also the steps are actually much more easily attainable. Now, this isn't taking away from the fact that if you are a gambler and you're an addict and you've been suffering from that addiction for some time, there will be things that you need to repair. There will be debts, there will be relationships you need to repair, all that other stuff, the stuff that I've spoken about many, many times. All right, but if you are contemplating making a change, a positive change, so getting into a more positive habit, or removing something that's very harmful, very negative from your life, such as an addiction, all right, don't look back and think, if only I started this many years ago. All right, because you can't change that, and you can't change the situation you're in today. All you can do is keep taking the steps and enjoying each little step. If that's a pound lost at the gym, or that's the fact that maybe you can, in a couple of weekends' time, you can buy a takeaway, whereas normally you wouldn't have had that 20 quid in your pocket because you would have gambled it. Then enjoy each and every step, every positive, every progression as what it is, and appreciate that. Life is happiness is expectations exceeded. Someone always used to say, and I think you can apply that very much to this. If you're used to living your life down here, maybe you had aspirations to be up here, and maybe if you'd taken a different life course, you could be up here. All right, but if you're down here, then trust me, being just up here is going to feel infinitely better. So enjoy it and allow yourself to enjoy it. All right, I'm a bit of a fat bastard, right? And if I go and lose half a stone in the next few weeks because I've been to the gym, okay, I will allow myself to enjoy that self-improvement. I will allow myself to give myself a pat on the back and go, I'm happy with that. And if you can go a week without gambling, a day without gambling, a month without gambling, however long it is, and you see any form of improvement, and you just feel that little thing come over you that makes you smile, then embrace it and allow yourself to enjoy it. Because it will be that motivates you to continue to develop that routine and to maintain better habits. Stay safe, stay sane, and hopefully it won't be as long next time. But look after yourselves. Speak to you soon.